Where did you do the jump? How high?
if I stop, because I can't think what the hell I'm doing. This is the sort of clogging that Bill Gibbons, who very sadly died this year at 90, danced right up to the end. They used to dance this sort of step on the barge decks. They worked on the barges basically to keep their feet warm. And there's a lot of little basic building blocks, and you can put them together in any way you like. They either dance to music or without the engine. And what Richard is going to play is a set of 3 hornpipes that Bill often used to dance to because they've been recorded by Jimmy Shan, somebody who does tape. I used to go every week to Bill's house and have my clog lesson. And he always used to make me go through the steps. Although it's freestyle, I had to do a group of so many steps, a group of so many steps. So whenever I dance to this, I tend to reproduce my clog lessons. So that's what this does.
Could they just imagine like a very large red accordion standing a bit like this? Imagine that.
Is that it, Rick?
I'm going down instead of coming up. It makes it change.
Yeah, he learnt it last night. Jimmy Shan.
Got to about the first sort of half of it so far, and we're just beginning the difficult bits. So I'm going to show you the difficult bits if I can remember the order to do them in, which is fairly unlikely. Oh, I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm doing my 17-step Lakeland routine, mostly learnt out of the the flex book with one or two extra bits learned from here and there, one complete step learned from somebody totally different. Okay. Oh, and my fiddler is called Vic, and I've never met him till today, and he's doing very well so far.
Let's see how it goes.
Where's Tracey?
Yes, I know. No, I do.
flat footing. It's just a kind of different style, or just different steps, really. Usually the Tennessee walking step is what we've been concentrating on, and we're doing some stuff that have been helping us to freestyle clog better, which is really what the essence of this type of dance is all about, being able to listen to the music and dance your own rhythms without having a set of steps. So I'll show you without music what the Tennessee walking step is, and then Dave and Mark are going to bust loose and so am I. So this is the Tennessee walking step. And I'm going to mix it up with a bunch of different rhythms to the music. So, thanks, Molly. And it's called an African rhythm exercise to help people learn to freestyle with the rhythm canal. So Lynn hasn't done this in a long time. So we're going to see if it works for us. Sounds good for us, right? So we do this little thing, and then one person counts to 8, and you're kind of just supposed to like rip out a rhythm somehow.
And it's like not a planned step, whatever comes to your mind. And you're supposed to do anything that's not familiar to you so that you can come up with a new step from that. And a lot of times, what you do might look like crap, but you might get a new rhythm from it and be able to use that and put it towards a really neat step.
Or you might be able to suddenly combine 2 unusual steps that you've never combined before.
Right.
Now, we hope it don't look like what she said.
didn't have their full measure and are not really ready to perform, so I'm just going to do an Old Lancs dance. Right.
I'll just say a little bit about this. I also want to say, I want to put my little bit in about the Steptones because I was responsible for getting them here. I really enjoyed their workshop when I was I know you do this sort of thing in America. Give them a cheer. Squirmy. But I don't know whether you know, originally when we once got together some years ago as a wedding group and decided what we were actually about, and we decided at that point we were about step dances of the British Isles. And you can see that we have moved very slightly, and we've had French, Canadian and American, and what we've got here is a few steps from the Cape Breton style of dancing that we learned from an American girl called Sandy Silver last year, and Chris Brady went over this year and learned a few more steps. Now, these are freestyle steps, and we're doing them in little groups as we've learned them, so you know they're not quite how they will be eventually. And the steps are normally a set of strathspey, a little sequence of strathspey steps followed by reel steps. Now we've just got round to learning a few reel steps, and they're going to do the strathspey this afternoon, so that's what we're going to do.
Holly.